Okay. We are live on YouTube.
Okay, awesome. All right, hello everyone. Hope everyone had a great summer. This is our first committee meeting after summer. We have on our agenda 3 items, two outdoor dining applicants, and the St. Philip Street renaming, which we also covered at our most recent meeting back in June. So with that, Josephine, I understand we had posted back to the community board back also in the June meeting. And so this is the second of the meeting to discuss more fully, and I believe to actually draft a letter in our committee's recommendation of the renaming or not. Is that correct? In the next step here?
Yes. So the next step of the application submitted by St. Philip's Episcopal Church to co-name the southwest corner of 11th Avenue at 80th Street to St. Philip's Square. The applicant provided a presentation to the committee at the June meeting, and as is our procedure, we did public notice. We give time for the public if they want to submit any comments. We did receive today just 2 quick letters of support for the application. The city council has a policy where they now submit applications for co-naming twice a year, and that's coming in the month of October. So the committee's recommendation tonight will be voted upon at the September 16th general board meeting, and then we will provide that recommendation to the city council. This area of CB10 is represented by council member Alexa Avalos, and we will also be sending the recommendation to her office. So all we need at this point is a motion and a vote from the committee members to present.
Okay. Any discussion? Any discussion in the room?
Anyone? No?
Was there discussion at the previous meeting?
Not really. It was a pretty straightforward application. The church has its, oh, I'm sorry, Staley, I should have sent that to you. You weren't on the committee at the June meeting. We've had a few houses of worship that have applied for honorary street renamings, and this was pretty straightforward. The congregation came forward. They're celebrating their 80th anniversary and wanted to commemorate the corner in their honor. And we've completed a public notice. There was no opposition. We've received a few letters in support. We have a few in the district, St. Anselm's, St. Mary's, St. Ephraim's. We have a few now that the board has supported and have been renamed. Okay.
Do we have any requests for street naming in our district? I know you said you're sending that into a realist, but do we have any that we're sending?
No, this is the only one. Okay, so I think we need just a motion, a second, and a vote.
Right.
Carmen just made the motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Diane, all in favor? Perfect.
Great.
Okay, that's everyone. So there's no opposer. So the motion passes.
Fantastic. So the next item is either Positano or Campania. Has the applicant arrived?
No. The applicant has not arrived. I do have a PowerPoint if you want me to go through it for the committee of the results, what the application is, the results of public notice, or if you'd like, I could try to reach out to the applicant to see where they are.
Yeah, I think we should definitely reach out to applicant, and I think we should also try to cover Campania first. I think it's probably going to be less controversial. And then thirdly, I wanted to ask a logistic question because on the feedback form, it was requested that feedback is returned by tomorrow, which of course is not in time for our board meeting.
Right. So what we have done in the past is when we have a hard deadline, and we talked a little bit about this at the June meeting, is DOT is really giving us a very, it's a legal window. I'm not saying they're giving us a small window. It's what was adopted by the city council. So in the committee had motioned at the June meeting that we could administratively provide a review similarly to what we do for block party applications, unless they have some adverse history. In the case of Positano's application, there is adverse history and complaints to the office. So what we can do is provide DOT with those concerns raised by the committee, and they will then initiate a public hearing, at which point we can submit the comments of the full board, which are voted on the September 16th meeting. And so that would handle the sidewalk cafes have 40 days. So we have ample time on the Positano Sidewalk Cafe to submit following the full board vote. We'll get it just under the wire on the 40th day. Now, Jack, as far as other applications, we did not receive any applications for outdoor dining over the summer. These are the first 3 applications that we received. And according to the Department of Transportation, many businesses waited until the very end to submit their applications on the August 3rd deadline. So the process is that the restaurants submit their applications to DOT, then their unit reviews the applications. Once it's reviewed and gives a green thumb, it fulfills all the requirements of DOT, it's then forwarded to the community boards and the city council offices for review. So the bottom line of which is they are very backlogged, because everyone waited. I think they received over 1,000 applications at the very last minute. So their unit is a small unit and they are processing those. To date, we have only received the 4, the Genos that we reviewed already in June, and these 3. So that's it, Jack. We haven't received others.
We basically have one cycle to submit our recommendation, one.
Yes,
Board.
one board meeting. So it's a very short window, a very short window.
And just so the people in the room who may have not been on board before, this is to meet the November 30th, I believe, or November 1st deadline, where if they don't apply, then they must remove whatever sidewalk cafes or odd roadway cafes that already exist, for example.
Right. So there is a glitch in the system, in the computer system. So I could not even tell you those establishments in Board 10 that have applied.
Right.
I've looked.
Right,
yes, yeah. So DOT is working on that glitch right now. So I couldn't even tell you we have 10 in the queue or 20. We're not really sure. I can ask DOT if they could provide that information for us by the board meeting.
Is it my, I thought that all the sheds had to be down by the November date. And this was the application for April or whenever they're allowed to rebuild them.
That's correct, with one caveat. If you did not apply by the August deadline, you have to take it down. If you did apply, you have until November 1st to take your structure down.
Okay.
And then one more clarifying thing, the roadway cafe always have a public hearing. I think that was like, there's always going to be a public hearing for a roadway cafe.
Roadway cafes will receive, DOT will hold a public hearing, correct?
No matter what. Okay, I think we've given the applicant enough time to show up here. So I think we should go ahead and review the applicants in order and our thoughts here.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because I did prepare a PowerPoint. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we received 3 applications. First was a sidewalk cafe application for Positano, 10018 4th Avenue. Application number for the record 2024709030005 for 18 tables and 36 seats. A roadway cafe for Positano, 10018 4th Avenue, for 23.42 foot long and 8 foot wide roadway dining shed on 101st Street with 19 tables and 18 seats, and a 40 foot long and 8 foot wide roadway dining shed with 16 tables and 32 seats. And the third is a roadway cafe application only for Campagna Coal-Fired Pizza, 9824 Fourth Avenue. Their application number 202-407-16-0-30007 for a 35-foot long and 8-foot wide roadway dining shed on 99th Street with 14 tables and 28 seats. So the Osateria Positano, doing business as Positano at 10018 Fourth Avenue, is owned and operated by Joseph LaRocca. They have applied for a sidewalk cafe along 4th Avenue and 2 roadside cafe setups, one on 4th Avenue and one on 101st Street. They hold an active SLA license since 2016 with 5 disciplinary actions. They held a sidewalk cafe license prior to dining out program in 2017. Overall, the applications are for 43 tables, 43 additional tables and 86 additional seats. Their current indoor occupancy is 102 patrons. So the layout of the sidewalk cafe on 4th Avenue is for 18 tables and 36 seats. Their previously approved sidewalk cafe was for 22 tables and 44 seats. So you can see here the applicant provided an architectural diagram of the 4th Avenue sidewalk cafe, which shows, again, DOT did review this, and there are certain, 8-foot clearance requirements, there are furniture requirements, and this layout was approved by the Department of Transportation. Jack, do you want to stop here, or do you want me to complete Positano and then we can open it up to questions?
So maybe I'm the only one's confused here, but there's 2 applications, and one of them is it like one covers one half of the street and one covers the other half of the street?
Yeah, so there are 2 separate applications. One is for a sidewalk cafe, and that sidewalk cafe is limited to 4th Avenue for 18 tables and 36 seats. They submitted a second application for roadway dining, so that's from the curb and beyond, which is what they had at one point during the pandemic, for 4th Avenue and for 101st Street. So they submitted, 2 roadway portions on their roadway application, and this one that we just reviewed is the layout for their sidewalk cafe on 4th Avenue.
Got it.
So we do have to submit, because they're 2 separate applications, 2 separate recommendations.
Got it. So I guess for the general committee, we can submit 2 different opinions, one on each. Any questions on just the sidewalk cafe here?
Stephanie?
Isn't the sidewalk cafe currently in existence?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that the SLA license, you said it was up to date, but it also extends to the sidewalk cafe, and that's all up to date as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Stephanie, SLA licensed establishments during the pandemic were required to make amendments to their licenses to reflect the outdoor dining. And that was completed for this establishment.
Okay, because I know at one point in history, Positano's license had lapsed, and I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. Yeah, we did look today. We did.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Josephine, was that the one infraction you mentioned earlier? There was.
Yeah. So there were 5 disciplinary actions for various reasons during the pandemic. I could pull them if you wanted me to go through them. I don't have them in front of me, I don't think, but they were all resolved. But they were for various reasons.
Got it. It'd be good to know after if it was pertaining to cafe, the outdoor sections, or was it like internal specifically?
Okay. Did you want me to continue with the?
Yes. Any other questions?
I think we should speak about the cafe separately, because it is a separate application.
I agree.
Right. And DOT doesn't review the SLA stat. I mean, they not for the purposes of this, because alcohol does not have to be sold, but they do require a check mark if they do have an active SLA license.
Makes sense.
Okay, do you want me to, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think as far as the sidewalk cafe alone, I have some issues with the roadway cafe.
Yeah.
But the sidewalk cafe seems like essentially what they already have. Seems to be like well run and well managed and not really causing any problems.
Stephanie?
Have there been any complaints from residents about the sidewalk cafe? I didn't see.
We received many complaints about the roadway.
Roadway, right.
Not so much about, I don't think any about the sidewalk cafe, but many about the roadway.
Right. I just,
We received a petition about the roadway. We received 7 emails, pretty much all saying, raising the same concerns. I know there are members of the public here, not about this one.
Yes.
About the roadway or about the sidewalk? About the roadway. Okay. There's members of the public here. They're fine with sidewalk, but the concerns are with the roadway.
just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right, let's cover the roadway and then we can make some motions.
Okay. So moving on, the layout of the roadside cafe proposed. The application is for 16 tables and 32 seats. The roadside setup will be 8 feet wide and 40 feet long, smaller than the 4th Avenue setup under the temporary program. This is the 4th Avenue side. The 101st Street side, the application is for 18 seats and 9 tables. The roadside setup will be 8 feet wide and 23.5 feet long. The hours of operation for Positano's roadside and sidewalk cafes are noon to 10:30 p.m., Sunday through Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., and that's within the DOT's regulations. So community concerns: since 2020, there have been hundreds of 311 complaints against Positano, largely regarding noise and street parking conditions. In December of 22, Community Board 10 held a meeting to address ongoing issues surrounding blocked crosswalks, double parking, and the restaurant placing barricades in the street for valet parking. This past week, CB10 received a petition signed by more than 60 residents opposing the roadway cafe due to the existing problems with parking and traffic and concerns regarding emergency responses. Additional emails were received concerning pedestrian safety and potential increases in noise, traffic due to the substantial increase in the restaurant's overall occupancy. So the street conditions during the temporary program, I have some photos here which show double parking, parking on the sidewalk, parking blocking the crosswalk. Current conditions with valet parking, as you can see, cones are set up along the entire perimeter of the store, blocking other merchants. This is not permitted, as well as continued blocking the pedestrian curb cut and right of way. So,
And the issue of double parking, it's almost like triple parking, once you have that outdoor shed and you have cars parking on the other side, that's taking away a substantial lane. I mean, it's an active area.
yeah, I just want to, during that time when right now there's no roadway cafe, our office was visited regularly from parents, from, neighbors, residents who just couldn't cross there, felt that they really couldn't cross there safely. The crosswalk was often blocked. The pedestrian ramps were regularly, right off of the outdoor dining. I think there's a photo here. You could see in the middle right here of the car parked and just kind of halfway on the sidewalk, and but that was a pretty regular occurrence. So
And it
I would
was.
say, yeah, I would say in total, the petition from 60 residents nearby, the many emails, and I know there are people, attendees at the meeting. Jack, I don't know if you want to allow open public discussion at this point to see if anyone has anything to raise. Oh, you have board members who have hands raised too.
Yeah, so I see Doris first.
Okay, I'm a local resident. I live 2 blocks from Positano. 101st Street and 4th Avenue is a dangerous intersection. There's already been a pedestrian fatality there. And the 4th Avenue by 101st Street is used by 3 bus lanes. And as Diane noted, sometimes we're down to less than 1 lane for normal traffic and buses. And and they have valet parking, not just at busy times at night, but at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday and on a Tuesday. They are not good neighbors, and they are at a dangerous intersection. And these roadside sheds will make that intersection much more dangerous.
Doris, given that you're a local resident here, how do you feel about the sidewalk cafe part of it? Have they been good neighbors in that section?
Well, I don't live close enough to say about the noise, but it exists in it's fine. You can walk by, there's no problems. It's not too bad, but I don't know how late, how it is for the neighbors above it. But I do know that the conditions and not only if one of the pictures shows that was submitted by a resident shows that they're not only blocking in front of Positano to make space for valet parking, but they're blocking a bus stop. And they are hindering access to neighboring businesses. So I think they do not have a good history. And I am very concerned, because of the dangerous nature of that intersection of 101st Street and 4th Avenue.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Stephanie.
I feel that I need to state that I am very strongly opposed to the roadway cafe for the same reasons that Doris mentioned, as well as the reasons listed in the petition and in the emails that were sent to the district office. I have witnessed the conditions that are in these photographs. I've seen where the bus never pulls into the bus stop, or can very rarely pull into the bus stop because of the valet parking. The valets also park in a no standing zone on 100th Street, which makes it very difficult down that block. So all around, despite the complaints and the desire for the community to work with the restaurant, a lot of the complaints have gone unheeded by Positano, and I just cannot support the application. Thank you.
Is the valet program, is that like a license thing? Is that a thing that any restaurant can do? Is it specific to this restaurant? It seems like that is causing specifically a lot of problems. Maybe a question for you, Josephine, but I'm not sure.
Yes. So the rule about valet parking is that it's not permitted, period. It's just not allowed. So the police department has also, we've had meetings here with the business owner in the past. And, having a sign and taking valet parking in of itself, is a custom, and it's been, many restaurants have it, but you are not permitted at any time to certainly put cones in a bus stop, in any parking lane. That is not allowed and permitted. So we received these photos today, and we did forward them to the 68th precinct and asked them to reach out. I know people are frustrated in the community. Many have called, 311, reached out to the precinct about this. It is very difficult issue to tackle.
Yeah, it seems kind of egregious based off of what I'm seeing. Any hands up in the room?
Yes, Staley?
So I agree with everything that's been said already and what was said in that petition. I think that the problems they have will only get worse if they have roadway cafes, especially the visibility at that intersection. My question is if this application gives us any kind of leverage to help resolve that problem, like can we include a stipulation that they have to have maybe like an agreement with a nearby parking lot for their valets or something along those lines as part of their application?
That's a good question. We often do stipulations with certain SLA license establishments. But we've also in establishments that are so egregious and really have not even responded to requests for compliance, we've come out with a straight no. So we've done both. And that's really a decision for the committee to make, whether it's a, deny unless the following stipulations are agreed to, or if the board votes no, I mean, either way, there is a public hearing, but our no vote will be, I think, looked at closely by DOT.
Because it seems like, it seems like even, if we vote no, that's, I think that I completely agree with that. But the problem remains. If we vote no. The problem is this ongoing issue with the
Subject
with
to
the valid
enforcement.
parking and the enforcement, and I'm wondering if it's for us to make a positive impact on this.
Well, I guess my recommendation would probably be if it seems like we're going to reject the roadway cafe, but not reject the sidewalk cafe, we can add potential stipulation on that with this behavior. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, we could also do that with the sidewalk cafe, because the valet parking is happening now without roadway dining.
Right.
So we could also stipulate that behavior on the sidewalk cafe
I would be
application.
interested in this.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's what we're here for. We do have, I think, one other board member, and then we could open it up to the public. Diane?
Yes, thank you. Rather than approve the roadway, the roadway cafe, if they wanted to, see, I'm not opposed to the sidewalk cafe. I've been there during this, it's very well run. Why don't they use the sidewalk on 101st Street if they wanted to add more tables there, and eliminate both of the dining sheds?
Yeah, I think there's a limitation of footage. I think that's the reason why on the sidewalk. You have to certain.
Definitely, there's not enough space on 101st Street for a sidewalk cafe.
Okay, I'm not totally familiar there, but
Yeah, I'm sure that's why. Carmen?
When I look at this picture, it reminds me of like the books when I had as a child. How many things can you find wrong in this picture? And the fact that the cones extend to another business,
Right.
that really bothers me, because I'm thinking to myself, we have so many seniors, and what if somebody's dropping senior off, then they gotta stop, get out of their car, move the cone so that the senior can get there safely. And the one thing that I really don't like about these cones is a doctor's office near the Alpine that does the very same thing. And I always want to say, how dare you? Because imagine if they're looking at this and they're like, hey, they've had those cones and it works. Why don't I get cones?
Right.
And because we're all fighting parking. And so when we vote no, do we also can include like either a copy?
Oh, we include the whole packet.
The whole
Yeah,
packet.
yeah,
All right,
we
so that's
do
great,
include.
because-
We redact personal information, but we do submit the
Yeah, because I just want to
correspondence
say
that we
to
receive.
the guests, when guests come, that makes a big difference. Because then I know the hindrance this is on in your life. And the fact that so many people signed that petition
Mhm.
really backs up what we can imagine is going on. So I want to say thank you, Lulu, and thank you for coming tonight.
Okay,
Any
Jack?
do we have any public comments?
Yes, so we'll do the room first. You want to say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
It's not only that they double park, like someone said, triple park, so they're taking up 2 lanes. So now you have to drive on the wrong side of the street to come down 4th Avenue.
That's
And
right.
then you have the restaurant, the club is across the street, and they double park. Now you have 1 lane for both ways, for both sides of traffic. It's insane. And they always come off the corner. Last night I'm looking at the car, it's like a third of the way into the intersection from one side. Now, if you go to the other side, you have to come straight down the block. Otherwise, you can't get down sometimes. And a lot of people walk there, older people. I know driving down the block, I can't see people sometimes because the cars are so far out. By the time you see the person, they're in front of you. I don't want to kill anybody. And I know the restaurants, they don't give a damn. They're just worried about getting as many people into the restaurant. You know, it's dollars and cents, I understand. We pay for those parking spaces, and now we're going to give it to them for free, or whatever you charge them. So now you lose parking spaces on 3rd Avenue, on 4th Avenue, and 101st Street. Besides,
There's an apartment building right there
Yeah,
that had cars.
Yeah.
So now you're taking how many spots?
and they always be one.
And then they double park next to the double park cars.
Yes,
So you're turning down 101st Street. The picture is
With the-
there that
with the
there's
car
on
right there.
4th Avenue and you've got this much to make a turn.
yeah, they're only showing the one car. They usually have another one next to that.
Plus, they do not clean up the food that's on the floor
Okay.
and around.
On the roadway cafe.
Well, the food gets underneath.
Yeah.
You can't help it.
And
There's
then
rats,
this-
there's skunk.
And apartment building, so you know that just attracts more mice. It's disgusting, and yes, it does get loud up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, if you have your windows open, which we do.
And their valet sign is always in the lane. So now,
Moving lane.
even now, you drive down the block, you double park, and now you have to go around the sign to go into the other lane in
Just
order
go
to
down
go down the block.
101st Street.
Okay.
And they don't care. You
Yeah,
keep the
okay.
warning.
Did you hear that, Jack?
I did.
Okay, did everyone hear it? Okay, so we'll move on. There's an attendee. Who
And
would like-
Jack, I can support everything that they say.
Okay, Romeo Patrick. Romeo, I'm going to, you should be able to unmute yourself now and speak.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm just gonna confirm everything that John Cipriano, who's there in the room, said. If you think the parking's bad in front of Positano's now, you also, no one mentioned anything about them parking the cars on the sidewalk in front of the medical building between 99th and 100th Street on 4th Avenue. I did take pictures and I did send them to Justin Brannan's office. It's actually happened again this past weekend. When they ran out of space, they just park wherever they want to park. Someone alluded to a question about using local parking lots. They used to use St. Pat's parking lot in the past. That has stopped because of the noise and the way the valet guys drive. So they're no longer allowed to park at St. Pat's. They've also parked under the highway along Fort Hamilton Parkway, when usually after dark when there's no one in the park, so they can park on the sidewalk. I don't know if that's happened anymore.
Now
But
let's do that.
John probably has a better idea of how bad parking is there than I do. But I can tell you that Campagna is pretty bad as well.
Thank you, Romeo. Could you also share those photos with the community board so we could attach them to with our response?
Sure. You want me to email them to you?
Yes, that would be great.
All right. As long as I can find them, I'll take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Romeo. Appreciate it.
Okay, so that's basically the end of the discussion. Of course, if there's any more, feel free to raise.
Oh, wait, we have one more public member here.
Oh, sorry, please.
Toby?
The only thing I request, I totally oppose it. They double park. I did contact Justin Brannan's office one day. I called the 68 precinct. They didn't have a car available. Okay, it's a joke in this corner. You cannot walk when they're having an event. Secondly, the express buses, they're causing a nightmare for all the buses in this community. They're an atrocious neighbor. They're not part of the community. And with all these cafes they're building on the outside and this, they're actually doubling the size of their restaurant. And they're taking away money from the city. I definitely oppose it. It's not a good neighbor. And I request if the community board will, to send these complaints to the SLA along with all the photographs. And if they get a violation from DOT for what they're doing here, if it's sent to the state liquor authority, they could re-violate them for it. So instead of having 5, maybe we could get them 7 or 8 violations. Maybe it's time we ask the SLA to revoke their license. I know it's an extreme step, but I think it needs to be done for this premise.
Thank you, Toby, as well as everyone who sent their comments and the petition as well. Do we have any motions from the committee regarding either the sidewalk cafe and or the roadway cafe?
Jack, just for administrative purposes, we need 2 separate motions. We need a motion first for the sidewalk cafe and then for the roadway cafe.
Okay, so I'll go with Dean first.
Yeah, well, I would make a motion that we deny the application for the street side cafe.
The roadway.
Roadway.
Roadway, excuse me, a roadway cafe.
Okay, I will second that. I presume we can summarize it based off of the comment that we've had here thus far, and as well as within the petitions, generally summarized as obviously additional traffic problems, valet issues, food cleanliness issues, pedestrian blockage issues, and noise issues as well. So
I would just like to add something. Besides the parking, well, this would create a dangerous condition because of the street layout, going from 1 lane and people are going back to 2 lanes. So it's not only the parking, it's a dangerous street condition also. I think we should note that somewhere.
any comments on this motion?
I agree with you. I would add in addition to that, I think it also creates visibility issues with the crosswalks and it creates risks to pedestrians as well. I think that's really important.
Makes sense.
Thanks.
I would like to support those comments about what a dangerous condition it creates, because it basically is reducing 4th Avenue at some points to less than 1 lane, which and it's a dog-eared intersection which has a dangerous history. And Positano has not been a good neighbor. We have reached out to them about the valet parking, and they say, we'll be better, and they just get worse.
Chris?
Thanks, Jack. I just wanted to come back to something again. You had asked about the valet parking and what controls are over that. I agree that it should be some sort of stipulation or comment anyway, because that I have a real problem with valet parking. I mean, just on 3rd Avenue, it causes such chaos and it's so dangerous. So I thought that was a really good point, but I wanted to make sure that that'll be included within this. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, seconded by me. Motion to deny the applicant for the roadway cafe for Positano. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. All denials, recusals, and abstentions. Okay, seems like all in favor.
Just before we move on to this, did the applicant ever show up, Josephine?
No.
I think that's an important indicator.
You know, that was an issue that was expressed by community boards as to whether or not, you know, the applicants would be required. And really DOT, you know, did suggest, you know, at those meetings that be noted in the recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion regarding the sidewalk cafe?
Doris?
Positano has had a sidewalk cafe for a long time. And I have no issue, so I would support the sidewalk cafe.
Diane?
If I may add, with the stipulation that they have to do something about their the way that they're putting the cones out in the street, et cetera, to, you know,
Oh, yes.
that would have to be included in that recommendation.
Right, there
So
will
it
be
would
no
be
cones in
deny
the street.
unless they, the way we do the other,
Like the liquor license, motion to deny unless the,
yes.
They do not use a valet parking sign or cones.
Correct.
Since we have a slightly longer timeline for the sidewalk cafe, can we, is it a possibility to request that they submit to us some kind of a plan or you know, some sort of a mitigation plan for the valley? Like we have all these complaints and we want you to tell us what you're planning to do about it before we approve your application. Is there a process?
yeah, I mean, we could make that request of them in advance of the September 16th meeting. I have no problem, you know, doing
I
that.
mean, of course, I'm like the new person.
Right, so we
so-
have a history, so there's many on the board that we've already met with this restaurant in the past, and it's been a little frustrating.
Something.
You broke out a little bit. Can you repeat that statement?
I'm sorry, Staley, can you just repeat?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, that's my idea, but I'd certainly be interested in hearing what other people on this committee think in terms of like the best way to accomplish that, right? Because I don't know.
So logistically, for a sidewalk application, we can still deny it and recommend that the DOT have a public hearing. Is that an option on the table?
That's correct, yes.
Oh,
So, I mean, I guess to Staley's point, if we deny unless a plan is submitted to the district office on mitigation of the valet parking and double parking issue, that could be a motion as well. That could be something that's requested.
It's almost like we
And
needed to take care of
Right,
an issue or another potential issue.
You might lose your.
right. Doris, you have your hand raised?
well, I made the motion, but I accept his comments as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay. So,
okay. So we have a motion on the floor to deny the sidewalk application for Positanos unless they provide a plan to mitigate the valet parking issue that has been described in this meeting so far.
perfect. Okay.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed?
No, you can't vote yet. I'm trying to make sure that happened.
You're saying about the taking up the spots with the towing law, could it be revoked if they continue to do that?
Well, enforcement,
put
right,
in-
so the community board is advisory, and the only agency that can provide enforcement of their license, should they get it at some point, would be the Department of Transportation.
I'm not saying that you can force it, but could that be in the requirements so that it's easier for whoever has to enforce it, could enforce it? Because they're not fulfilling their commitment.
Right, well, that would be provided in our response.
Yeah, it's like making other agencies aware of the issue.
Okay, so we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. Gonna go back to sharing the screen. Okay, so the next application is for a roadway cafe along 99th Street. Campagna Brick Oven Pizza, 9824 4th Avenue, also owned and operated by Joseph LaRocca. They have applied for a roadway cafe along 99th Street. They had a roadway cafe in the same location during the temporary program. Campagna has an existing SLA license since 2013 with no disciplinary history. They will be adding an outdoor premise to their license. So their application is for 14 tables and 28 seats. Their roadside setup will be 8 feet wide and 35 feet long. Their hours of operation are 11:30 to 11, Sunday through Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. That's it.
We received some public comments. I believe there was one public comment on this by email.
Yes. So the public comment was not in opposition, but rather a concern about the size, saying that they would like it to be shorter. I'll read it to you. Let's see. I received an email regarding the roadway shed on 99th Street. We are homeowners on the same block. For the record, we have no issue with the restaurant over the years. However, with the new proposal, the shed is 35 feet long, which is longer than the previous shed. The shed would start from the corner of the block until the fire hydrant. Previous dining shed left one parking spot away from the fire hydrant, which the restaurant delivery drivers often took. Oftentimes, delivery persons would park in front of the driveway, which is next to the fire hydrant. We have been able to make work over the past couple years, but with the shed being longer than the previous one, we think it would be just too difficult to manage. Therefore, I don't oppose to the shed, but we would like it to be the same size as the previous one, not longer. So that was the comment that we received.
Can you clarify what the extension is? So it's going to 8 feet. What was it? What is it currently?
Well, currently it's, I don't believe it's there
It's not there anymore.
not there anymore. So it's a little hard to gauge on what the size was in the, during the pandemic. But we did take a look, at the Google Docs. Let me see here. Hold on.
So actually,
Yeah, it's hard, to measure on Google Docs versus on what the size of it was then and what it is.
so
Yeah.
I looked a lot while we were getting ready
Yeah.
for the meeting
Okay.
on Google Maps, which fortunately still has the satellite photo from the pandemic.
Okay.
And I think the one that they're proposing is, if anything, a little bit shorter than the one that was there. The one that, if you look on Google Maps, you can see the old one went right to the back edge of their building. And the one that they're proposing actually does not go all the way back to the end of their building. So I think
Yeah.
that comment, they might be just mistaken about this.
I
So
believe that
Staff looked at this and they measured on Google that the shed used during the pandemic, measured on Google Docs, was 50 feet. So this would be smaller
Okay.
at 35 feet.
That's why.
Correct. Yeah. I'm sorry, we have 3 hands raised?
Yes, let's go with Diane first.
I believe that one of the complaints from the email was the fact that it was the positioning. If I recall, he said something about they used to park a car in front and now I guess they've brought it all the way up to the corner. So it might be the positioning rather than the size.
No, it always was close to the corner. But there was more space between
the
the
back?
shed and the hydrant.
On the hydrant.
Okay.
Yeah, it might just be a case of mistaken understanding of the dimensions here. That's what it seems like based on conversation so far. Okay, I see Doris on my screen next.
Do we know how far it is from the hydrant?
I have to look, but what I can say is that it was reviewed by DOT in the schematics that were submitted to the agency, and there are requirements of spacing, and it was approved. So let me see if I can see that here.
Anything
Hydrant is,
schematic.
looking at it right now, the hydrant is in front of, not the building that's behind Campania, but actually the building that's behind that one. So there's one whole house in between the hydrant and the,
Okay.
there's a fair amount of space, I think.
I just want to be sure that there is the standard space for the hydrant. And, that we have at every other hydrant in New York City.
Yeah, I think that, you know what, I may be able to pull up hold on one second.
My question was similar to Doris, and I was just curious, what if the standard's the same, that you get that, I think it's, what is it, 10 feet clearance on either side of the hydrant, or if the note was saying, the public comment was saying that it was coming too close. I wasn't sure if I was understanding that correct.
No, but I think it's an important safety consideration.
Let's see. So I'm trying to get the Google Maps up. Let's see if I could do this.
Yeah, I guess as you're pulling it up, let me describe what I'm seeing on Google Maps. So the building itself is about 35 feet long, right? The schematics show that it's going to go the whole width of the building, which is the maximum allowable width, right? And there's about one building's width, 1.5 car width or so between the end of the shed, okay, as we see here, and the fire hydrant, which is right over there.
Yeah. So there's actually a lot of room between the hydrants.
Right, so if this is going to be shorter, there'll be more room. Perhaps this is where the car that they were referring to. Like, this is not permitted.
It
I
was
think
not
in-
there over time.
Right, I think in a new program, there's, different types of barriers that have to be placed. And there's also rules about certain distance from the crosswalk, so that's why it may be a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I think you're correct. It's
Yeah.
shorter.
On the 4th Avenue side.
Yeah, it was definitely far enough from the crosswalk. There was no issue.
Okay.
But can we tell if this cafe, this structure is 8 feet or 6 feet?
8 feet or 6 feet in
Width, in
in
width.
width. I don't know. It looks to me to be 6 feet.
I would agree.
That's my,
I would agree, and I think 8 feet might be, because it's already a narrow block.
yeah, and I mean, you can see here too, I mean, there is a portion of it on the sidewalk, which I don't believe is permitted in the new
Permitted, you're
program.
right.
Yeah,
And the new schematic, I believe, had three, on the ends, I believe there were 3 tables. This one looks like there's only 2.
Correct.
So the 8 foot would be much wider.
I think, yeah, okay.
Staley has a question in the room. I know we have, oh, you don't? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you had your hand raised. We
Yeah,
do have a member of the public,
let's go with that.
Romeo Patrick. Do you have your hand raised? I think it's a new hand raise. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, there you go. All right, now I can hear myself.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes, I've had no issues with Campania except for the fact that the shed was used less than 24 times since it was built. So for them to have a shed is wonderful, but if they're not using it, why do they need a shed? There's still people outside waiting to be seated inside, at least for the last 12 months, while the shed remained empty. So to me, that's a huge problem. Regardless of the size of the shed or where it's parked or how it is, I'm one of the few homeowners on 99th Street that owns a house without a driveway. So guess what? I'm not happy about the shed. I like the 4 parking spots. There aren't any parking spots. And they have the same issue with the valets. They park the cars wherever they want to park. And the delivery drivers are probably 10 times worse than valet drivers. Because as you saw by the pictures of the cones that you just brought up from Google Maps, I had got into arguments with the delivery drivers all the time. I have a great relationship with the chef. He's a nice guy, and he always talks to them, but they always revert back to their old ways after they told them not to put the cones up to save their delivery drivers' parking spots. Every other pizzeria and restaurant that has delivery drivers, they park right in the hydrant or in bus stops because they're only there for 10 seconds or 15 seconds waiting for an order to be delivered. Why Campania has to park on the side street and not in the bus stop on 4th Avenue waiting to make deliveries is beyond me.
Okay, thank you, Romeo.
Any other comments, discussion from the committee? Doris, I see your hand up.
Well, I want to support what Romeo said because I live nearby and the shed was very rarely used. And I'm concerned about 8 feet because I live on the next block between 4th Avenue and Fort Hamilton Parkway. And they're narrow blocks, and to take 8 feet and to still have a driving lane and a parking lane does not seem feasible. Because if I remember right, if I remember my survey from when I bought the house, my street is 20 feet wide. So that's a serious issue. I think they should make it narrower.
Hey, Joe, has this been approved by DOT?
Yes,
Yeah, and you're not taking into consideration either the Jersey barriers that they have to have on the street side of the cafe.
How do you,
Isn't that a requirement now?
yes.
So that's going to be a very narrow driving street.
Try to get a truck down that block.
How do you get a garbage truck down that block now?
yeah.
Very carefully.
Yeah, to be honest, I would like to see a clearer schematic than what has been provided.
So this is the schematic. I just made it a little bit bigger.
The problem is it doesn't have the context around the fire hydrant, doesn't have the context around the rest of the street.
Well, looking at that schematic, if they eliminated the 2 tables on each end, they could bring that whole thing in probably 4 feet. Or maybe 3 feet. By eliminating 2 tables in the street side cafe. I keep calling it the wrong name, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm a little confused why. So based on what I'm hearing, they're looking to expand based on what community has seen, both widthwise and lengthwise this shed, but also they're not using the current shed. So I guess I'm trying to piece those 2 facts together with this posting. That's not really making sense to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have someone else, Jack, in the room, member of the public, who has a comment on this.
No, I just wanted, I agree with it. 8 feet is definitely too wide for both restaurants because it sticks into the street. And they were saying about trucks, sanitation's not to be able to get a plow down that truck or that street on either one of them. If they have it sticking out, especially on 99th Street, it's even narrower than 101st. On 101st, they got to come on a different angle because they got to come a lot wider with that plow in the front of the truck. And you can't drive straight down from 101st between 4th and Fort Hamilton because they don't go straight. They will upset the blocks.
I mean, on narrow blocks, there are sanitation vehicles that.
I know, they use the pickup trucks.
The pickup
I know.
trucks.
But the Holsters.
The whole,
But if they get this permit on 99th Street for 8 feet, theirs was 8 feet before and had 1.5 to 2 feet on the sidewalk. So legally, they have to put that in the street. They're blocking the street. And again, you're building up a road and house underneath.
Okay, do we have any more comments?
No, that's it. Okay, so we could close the public portion and the committee could deliberate a recommendation.
Great. All right. Any comments, any discussion, and then any motion on this one?
Well, I would say if we're considering approving this, that we might want to put a stipulation in that it's no wider than 6 feet. That will definitely get, keep it pulled in from the roadway a little bit.
How about that it is used for dining patrons? Although, I mean, that is the requirement. It's supposed to be used for dining patrons, only.
Well, they're not using it for, they didn't use the old one for anything else, did they?
Were they using it for storage? Like what was in there?
I sometimes saw chairs stacked up in there.
I often did too. It was very infrequently used.
And the line was always out the door for the main establishment, but never for the little shed.
So was it that people did not want to sit in the shed?
We don't know.
I think outdoor dining was like a novelty and a necessity at one point. Given a choice between sitting outside and inside, I will always choose inside. I feel safer inside. Especially when you have all these kids, not only cars, but now you have all these scooters zipping by, and they just make me so nervous because I realize they can reach in. One of my friends, she put a bag out and I pulled her bag in. There's so many things not favorable about eating outside like that. It's just on the sidewalk, I feel safer. In the street, no. But to have then cars, like you're saying, I'm just imagining that narrow block and maybe somebody a little bit inebriated or something just trying to come down. There's no space. There's no wiggle room there.
Okay, so let me just make a motion and then we can talk through it just to move forward. So motion to deny the applicant with unless they agree to the following stipulations, which is 1, the length of it, as in the 35 feet portion of it, is no longer than what was previously there during the pandemic, and the width of it is no longer than 6 feet.
I'll make that motion. Or I'll second it.
Okay, so Jack made the motion, you seconded it. Any discussion?
Just be clear, the motion is to approve it with the stipulation or to deny?
To deny with the
Okay.
stipulation. Okay, ready to vote then? No, seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Staley,
Opposed?
any opposed? Staley's opposed.
Okay.
Okay,
And recusal?
nope. Okay,
Cool. Any other comments, questions, any other motions anyone would like to make here?
Motion to adjourn? No.
okay. Could do that.
That's it.
Okay,
Was that a leading question, Jack?
Well, no, I don't think we have anything else on our agenda, but if there was another motion to potentially approve it or something, because I just noticed that one person was not in favor. I just want to make sure I gave that option in case there was a competing motion.
oh, so Jack said that he, so does anyone want to make a different motion since we had one opposed to the motion?
I guess I don't have an alternative motion. I would be in favor of just approving it. I don't know if 2 feet makes a huge difference.
Open air makes a big difference.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool. All right. I did hear a
but
motion.
we'll note that if you want
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
I have to say, I'm amazed we're done so quickly. Especially consider the difficulty of the Positano Cafe.
yeah. I mean, we did receive a lot of feedback, from the community in the form of a petition, which was helpful, and emails, and we did get some, inquiry calls. So, and it's a busy time of year. So,
And it's one thing they brought upon themselves.
Yeah.
They own the restaurant, they don't own the street or
Right.
the sidewalk.
Right.
So,
No, I thought it was organized up, raising of concern. So we thank the residents for organizing that petition. Okay,
Great, so I heard a motion from Diane earlier.
Diane to adjourn. Okay,
Seconded.
Seconded
very
by-
good. All
Right.
right.
Thank you
All
so
right, everyone. Have a
Okay.
good